Swiggity swoogity, it's a slam dunk. Gravy Bones' ship is sunk, ladies and gentlemen, because we don't have a single undefeated Gravy in the room anymore, Patrick.
Not used to seeing that. Used to seeing a lot of representation, a lot of skilled players, and usually at the top table. So this one feeling like a little bit of an outlier so far, but lots of tournament left.
Looks like New England has perhaps found the answers that it required for King Bones, as he is often referred to, thanks to that Crown of Dominion. In this case, we've got a mainstay of arcane games and events in New England. It's Ka Chan on Arakni, slipped through the cracks, a hero that he is really known to love based on his performance. I believe about 2 months ago, Ka went to the finals and ultimately lost to Pheno Black when Aurora was still in the meta. But here he is in all his glory, sporting a 54% win percentage, 1 top 8 to his name, and 26 AGE points. He is on the tail end of the race to the Players' Championship. So he is going to have to secure some points today. And man, he's 3-0, so he's on the right road.
A lot of glory to be earned in this inaugural AG New England top 8. I know how much every single point matters to us over there on the West, and I hope and I wonder if over there on the East they're really appreciating the value of each and every one of those points.
Looks like Ka has been accused of knowing a lot about 1950s film history, but it's just luck of the draw. He's really good at multiple choice questions, and I'm really proud of him for that, for some reason.
Yeah, I've always said that one of the greatest skill you can have is just sometimes you just have it. And Ka maybe just relying on the power of C, as I often do.
C is the choice, huh?
C is the choice. It got me through the SATs, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, well, hey, if Flesh and Blood is any indication, CNC is a fine choice on any turn cycle.
Oh, this guy.
I am the guy who's making the puns. I've got dad energy too, but I'm actually a dad. So
yeah, well, I'm not even going to try to keep up, and I'll just do my best to not lose it on camera.
Copy. Not losing it on camera is Patrick Greasy. Let's go ahead and take a look at our Players' Championship leaderboard. We haven't pulled that up as of yet today. Notice Ka Chan with his 26 points are not in the race yet, but he is just on the cusp. As we proceed closer and closer to the Players' Championship, after, of course, 8 monthly opens in New England, we're going to start to see the most interesting part of this race actually be around the 13 to 16 marker, because what you don't see, those players in like 17 to 22, is just a couple points difference, and that won't change as we get closer and closer to the Players' Championship. That is where you're going to expect the most shakeups. It's not going to be the Kevin Markhams. It's not going to be the Pheno Blacks or the William Perlmans. It's going to be those at the tail end of the race that are really going to slingshot this way and that.
Yeah, and we can see some names that are doing well today that aren't at the bottom of that list quite yet. Daniel Flavin, who just sailed to a win on Puffin, as well as, of course, Justin Gottlieb, who's racked up some points on his own.
Let's stop talking about it, Patrick. Let's go ahead and hop in, not our Cogworks dovetail. We'll just jump into the flick knives and get flung this way and that over to New England, because it's time for Ka Chan on the left side of your screen versus the man in the right corner. It's Paul Gibby on Verdance, Thorn of the Rose.
And Slippy in a really interesting place in this meta, I feel. As I think I mentioned earlier today, Mario has lost a little bit of its luster as the assassin of choice, given that Gravy Bones is, I think, a bit of a scary matchup. So Slippy looking poised to take the assassin mantle.
And, Slippy did have a pretty good matchup into the, I shouldn't say pretty good, but a manageable matchup into the previous board state contender. Oh my goodness. Blue Infect into 2 Justinicks on turn 0. Paul Gibby has a bit of an answer in his own regard. It's Shelter from the Storm and Mental Block. Gonna cover all of this up.
They went sandbag for sandbag there. So this is up to, is that for 1? Yeah, it's for 1, right? So 11 blocking 9. So 2 damage leaking through, as well as a Blood Rot, which is a delayed 2 damage, sort of. So.
And a Ponder token generated on the side of our Wizard player. Wow. Sparks are already flying on this turn 0.
Yeah, so if anything, the Ponder will incentivize Paul to maybe pay into the Blood Rot. So it's possible, you would imagine, a double Just a Nick turn would be a lot of damage leaked, and Ka seemed very excited to throw those out. But Paul, great job, and maybe fortuitous draws there to cover up most of that damage.
Wowee. I am just reeling. I don't even know what I was talking about before all of that happened. That was absolutely massive. And the life totals are now evened. Arakni Slip Through the Cracks does start at a 2 life deficit to what a normal Flesh and Blood hero gets, that 40 life. But he's already evened it up on turn 0 and showing exactly why that hero ability is just too powerful to have 40 life.
Yeah, and Paul's hand is actually lining up really well here. He's got a E-Strike to lead off, which immediately says send me the bill. And I think he's going to be able to follow up with a Burn Bear, which is our most recent big and tall arcane damage spell to come out of High Seas.
Big and tall, big and large is Burn Bear. 6 arcane damage coming the way of Ka-Chan, who has only 1 AB slot devoted in the equipment suite, and it's a Codex of Frailty being pitched just for Arcane Barrier 1 here. Not the best use case for a Codex, but if he has perhaps a redundant one in the hand, that's probably the best use case you can get out of it anyway. Leaves it in the deck and also shores up a little bit of damage on the way.
Yeah, maybe figuring this game could potentially go long enough that they'll see it again, and with the Ponder token as well, or what happened there?
With the Ponder token?
Yeah.
Not entirely sure. It's possible that Paul forgot about it, but it's back over to Ka. 28 plays 38. Persuasive Prognosis comes down, has go again, thanks to the Slippy ability. And going fast is this game. There's only 3 cards in the bin for Ka thus far, but he's already lost 10 points of life. Spike with Blood Rot, however, coming out of the hand after pitching Schism of Chaos. So he's going to get a card into his arsenal as well as his opponent. Wow, this is an explosive matchup for Assassin versus Verdance.
And Persuasive Prognosis, generally one of the most scary cards to try to block out because of Justinic. Here, however, Paul knowing that 2 Justinics are out of the deck, so the odds of Ka having the third one are probably pretty low.
I don't know. At this point, leave it to Ka to have it is the way I would feel.
Yeah, Ka, he's a flashy player. This is my first game I've seen Ka play personally, and a very flashy player from what I can tell so far. So really excited to see how he can take this momentum, because right now he's about 10 points below Paul.
Schism of Chaos, however, has been resolved. 1 point of damage should be leaking through here to confer a Blood Rot Pox and also the Persuasive Prognosis on hit. But no, Paul has the answer, like he always seems to, in the form of Sync Blow. Only covering up 1 damage, but you've got to give it the extra value of denying Blood Rot and also the Persuasive Prognosis on hit as well.
Ka here electing to flick his
Hunter's Clave.
Hunter's Clave, adding a mark to Paul. I gotta wonder if Ka has a way to retrieve a dagger in his hand to incentivize such a play.
Instead, no, it's Hunter's Clave pushed out onto the combat chain, which means that after 1 flick goes through, Hunter's Clave is going to threaten to remark Paul Gibby. There's a card in hand and a card in arsenal from that Schism of Chaos. No way. Ka is cleaning up here. Could it be? It is an Orb Weaver Spinneret. This is what I expected to see after the Flick Knives play. I thought for sure there was either a retrieve effect or a way to generate a Graphene Calistera, and Ka exemplifying exactly why he decided to pitch a Codex of Frailty earlier in order to shore up some damage. It's because he had one locked and loaded, ready to go. Codex of Frailty comes out of the hand, retrieves a Persuasive Prognosis, and it is sent in for 2 thanks to that Orb Weaver Spinneret resolved earlier in the turn.
And Paul's got a nice hand, so either of his blocking equipment would cover this, and he goes ahead and uses one of them there. But I'm imagining wanting to keep that hand because he has the disruption available in Command and Conquer.
Clothes and life points flying this way and that across the table. And here comes Paul Gibby with a fantastic answer. It's Command and Conquer. Makes me wonder what he found off of that Schism of Chaos, because there are a lot of cards in the Verdance deck that can be total bricks in the arsenal. Mental Block, for one.
Mental Block would be bad. Maybe Paul plays Heart of Findal. That would be pretty brutal. But in all likelihood, maybe something that's just, at least hopefully for Paul, something that's not going to be able to be utilized this turn, but will have future value.
Command and Conquer for 6. Coming at Ka. He's got a Tarantula Toxin in hand. I believe it's a Leave No Witnesses and an E-Strike. Another E-Strike in the hand. This might just be an easy 2-card 7 play for Ka. We'll have to see what he wants to do with this hand. Right now, really having trouble leaking damage through to our Earth player. Is doing a little bit of disruptive work. But for now, yeah, it's just going to be Enlightened Strike for 7.
Ka is such a smooth and decisive player. The ways in which the quick decision making, the ways in which he turns his card over for his opponent to see it. There's a level of knowledge there that you have to assume that Ka is a specialist on this deck.
There's got to be a lot of reps behind every movement that he makes here. Paul Gibby cleaning up that Enlightened Strike very easily with yet another D-React and a 3-block out of the hand. What's he got to work with? Oh, it's Felling of the Crown, but no, deciding instead to send a Fruits of the Forest from the arsenal. That's what was found off of that Schism of Chaos. Perhaps just doesn't have the Earth cards in the bin to decompose in the way that he wants to yet.
Yeah, that must be it. And to your point, Bryce, I think Fruits of the Forest Blue, maybe not the best card to have in your arsenal. So it'll also get Paul out of having that, a 2-card 5 from his arsenal, so that he can go ahead and place the Felling from, I'm not sure the amount of Earth cards that Paul will now have, or at least once this chain link resolves, in his graveyard, but perhaps setting up the Felling for next turn.
Even if he was able to decompose on this turn, which I think he was able to based on the way he's been blocking, it would still mean that Felling of the Crown is only coming in for 4. He's probably just trying to lean on the Rootbound Carapai that must be lying in wait in the deck in order to get that first decompose off and get maximum value off of Felling of the Crown.
That's an astute observation, Bryce. Here, Ka, though, keeping all cards in hand, probably hoping to send a good amount of damage here, which Slippy is very capable of doing, to be able to close the gulf in life.
Starting it off, right, with Orb Weaver Spinneret into Bonds of Agony for 4 go again, thanks to the Slippy ability. How do you feel seeing that?
Dread. And in Slippy, it's such an artful card, because Ka always has the ability of bluffing it, and we don't know what's in Ka's hand. We don't know if he's bluffing. And here, revealing he was bluffing was not going to pop up the bonds there. So Paul sort of, I don't know about tricked, but forced to respect it so as to not get his hand absolutely blown up.
Art of Desire Body is the follow-up here. Flicking that Graphene Calycera, flicking the Hunter's Clave, marking Paul. Could it mean that there is a take up the mantle in the hand here?
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting, and there it is. Bryce, you are on it.
Bonds of Agony found out of the graveyard, which means that all 3 modes are going to be active here. Take up the mantle, Black Tech Whispers, and what's his last one? Was he thinking Flick Knives here?
He did flick.
He flicked on the previous chain link, didn't he?
No, I believe it was on this one.
It was on this one? Okay.
So that he could use take up
I'm
the
mistaken.
mantle.
Yes. Okay. You are absolutely right. That is 3 defense reactions. In this case, Paul not able to cover up the damage, but he does throw Sink Blow and also discard Fruits of the Forest. So nothing in the hand for Bonds of Agony to rip. Nevertheless, it's still a good chunk of damage that Ka has finally leaked through to these really resilient Earth heroes. Down to 32 is Paul Gibby to Ka Chan's 25. Honestly, I was kind of expecting Verdance to be running away with this match because of all that arcane, like Burn Bear, just chipping the AB1 slotted assassin all the way down to 0. In this case, Ka is really holding his own and putting on the hurt.
Yeah, and Paul able to, in both instances that Ka's tried to sort of surprise him, able to play around it and still get a lot of value out of his card. So really astute play from Paul. I think there's some confusion because Ka losing a little bit of value on his bonds because of when he changed, I forget the original attack into the bonds, it no longer had stealth, which means the Graphene Calycera enabler, gosh, I can't remember, the Orb Weaver non-attack action no longer was modifying that attack. So I think Ka originally thought it was going to come in for 10, but nonetheless, still a very effective turn for Ka.
And drawing back up is Ka Chan with only a Graphene Calycera with which to work at this point, but based on the way he's been playing this game so far, it seems like he really doesn't want to be swinging those daggers so much as flicking them. Paul just forced to lick his wounds. 28 plays 25, still in the favor of Verdance, and pass back over to Ka for more more onslaught.
Yeah, and Ka a little bit, drawing the Orb Weaver Spinner right on cue here to fill up his empty dagger slot, which is exactly what he wants to see. I was about to say he's in a little bit of an issue to the extent that he's relying on his daggers, but maybe not doing that as he's sending here a Bonds of Agony for 1 go again.
This will be for 4 go again because Orb Weaver Spinneret does confer +3 to the next stealth attack.
That is right.
And with 2 cards in hand and 2 attack reactions just on board, Paul is forced once again to respect this really fearsome attack. The question is, does he have anything he really doesn't want to lose from the entirety of his deck? That Heartbeat of Candlehold really suggests that you'd like this Bonds of Agony not to hit.
And this time, Paul having no sort of trickery on his side available, no D-reacts, no Fruits of the Forest to be discarded at instant speed. So he is going to have to play this as fairly in as fair as way as he can.
Honestly, it's for the first time this game, too. He always seems to find the D-reacts when he needs to, but the question Paul is probably asking himself is, where the heck are my Rootbound Carapace? Not a single one has been found. Yeah, he's been able to have access to D-reacts and shore up a lot of damage, but he really needs that first Decompose to get to happen so that he can unlock the full power of that Felling of the Crown that is still sitting in Arsenal and now under threat thanks to that Leave No Witnesses.
Yeah, and Ka here once again bluffing the Bonds of Agony pump, as Slippies are wont to do, and nonetheless having some disruptive play to follow. Ka being very aggressive with his flicks in this game, which is something I really respect, and I think is a sign of a seasoned Arakni player.
Undoubtedly so. Paul says that was enough threat for this Felling of the Crown to convince me that I have to deploy it now. 3 Earth cards go into the Banish Zone to power this Felling of the Crown, but it's only going to be for 4, even though it forces Ka to bottom a card.
Yeah, so unfortunately having to do the less than ideal Decompose that you were alluding to earlier, Bryce, but nonetheless, uninteractable disruption is something you'll take against an assassin, especially one that is presenting as much damage as Ka is currently.
You know, it's still ultimately like a 2-card 7, right? Because you can assume that whatever card your opponent puts to the bottom of the deck has at least 3 value. So it just showcased the supreme value of Felling of the Crown when it has all modes active.
An incredibly powerful card. And as we can see, Paul not only draws another Felling, but finally sees, I believe, his first, maybe second, Rootbound Carapace.
Infect in the red, 3 go again, threatening a Bloodrot Pox. Paul wants nothing to do with it. Ka following up with yet another Infect, asking the same question, but a second time for this turn. Ultimately, not the greatest follow-up for Ka when he had ultimately full tempo. Like, he didn't have to respect that Felling of the Crown if he had a monster of a hand to throw back at Paul, but in this case, only able to throw 2 head jabs.
Yeah, and it sort of makes sense that Ka would block on the Felling the previous turn, given that he didn't really have any sort of chicanery to engage in his turn. But nonetheless, a 3 that is effectively a 5 twice is not terrible in offensive output.
Paul, however, just donates 2 cards to the cause. He's got himself another Felling of the Crown. This one, however, not going to be deployed. It's going to the bottom of the deck in order to pay for the secondary cost of this Enlightened Strike, which now comes in for 7. After his second Decompose, which, by the way, generated another 3 Earth cards into the bin, Paul has gone from 0 to 100 in terms of getting his hero power online.
Yeah, some unfortunate sequencing for Paul there as he drew up a hand of 4 blues the turn prior and now had a turn with absolutely no blues. A blue would have enabled him to send that Felling, I believe. So a little bit unfortunate, but nonetheless, this game, I would say, razor-thin margin so far.
It's at this point in the game that I want to direct everybody's attention to the head slot of our Verdance player. It's Plume of Evergrowth. And Paul has been doing a very astute job of leaving his first copy of Felling of the Crown in the graveyard, not decomposing it and putting it in the Banish Zone, because in these matchups where Verdance is under a lot of pressure, she just wants to play really high value hands. There is no card that is higher value than Felling of the Crown. So Paul is going to try to find a little window of opportunity where he can keep 2 blues in hand, activate Plume of Evergrowth, send Felling of the Crown essentially from his graveyard, and really put the hurt on Ka, get him into that range of Storm Strider's Burn Bear combo.
Yeah, or maybe even use the Plume to get an Ether Pulse life and Storm Striders on their turn. A lot of flexibility with that card. You understand why players are pretty much every Verdance plays this card, despite the fact that it does not have any inherent defensive value.
Art of Desire Body here is the lead off for Ka Chan. 17 plays 25. Ka has got to put the pressure on here, but he's got 4 cards and 1 in arsenal with which to work. 3 go again right now. Art of Desire Body taken readily by Paul Gibby. It is a red card off the top from the banish. Ka goes ahead and draws a card and gains himself a little bit of life. Really unlucky for Paul. Not only is it a red, it's a non-earth and it's a defense reaction, which means that Ka has more of a green light to send damage on this turn.
The only upside to Paul on that is even if it were Earth, I guess it wouldn't really have expedited his window. He's 1 decompose away regardless. And Ka here teeing up for what's going to be an explosive dagger swing.
Okay, it is Orbweaver Spinneret into Savor Bloodshed, into Swing Graphene Calicera, which means that this is a big bad 8. No marking capability here. Both of the Hunter's Claves have been used up and are in the bin as of yet, so Ka can't do any instant speed flicking of a Hunter's Clave in order to mark his opponent and draw a card. It looks like this is just kind of semi-fair damage on its face.
Yeah, I mean, 4 damage, and the nat. I was about to say, Tarantula Toxin seems like what he's showing in hand, given that he has 2 cards left, and unless he's planning to IP himself, so a lot of damage leaking through here.
It became incredibly unfair as Paul puts 1 card down in front of this, and Ka responds with Tarantula Toxin. In this case, a 1-card 6 on that Graphene Calicera, because it is both a dagger and a stealth attack. One thing that Ka definitely missed on that turn cycle was equipping a new Graphene Calicera from his Orbweaver Spinneret. He could have flicked another dagger right there, but you saw him kind of reach for it in the graveyard after the attack had already been resolved. So a little bit of a misplay there for Ka. Needs to slow his play just a little bit, make it slightly more deliberate. Paul, however, responding with a Cadaverous Tilling, decomposing for the last time that he needs to in order to give his hero text. I don't believe we have updated life totals at this point because Paul just took a massive swing from Ka and shouldn't still be sitting at 22 if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I believe you're right, and we'll go ahead and correct that. Maybe a little bit another side effect of Ka's quick play and then the aura he's generating from doing so. But here, Ka taking the entire bill and going down to a meager 10.
Ka not afraid of this Storm Striders combo as of yet. It's important to note that the traditional Burn Bear Storm Striders Waning Moon combo does threaten about 9 points of damage. So Ka still insulated from it, not only by his life total, but also from that Widow Back Abdomen in his chest slot, which sports AB1 and also Spell Void 1.
And I don't know if you saw Paul's hand that he drew up there, but he sort of gave a bit of a look there. I think that look says this hand isn't good, but it does block pretty well. So we'll, at the very least, I don't know if Paul's going to be able to do much constructive on his turn back, but there are worse blocking hands to get to the extent that you're expecting Ka to come at you.
Ka, oh my goodness, is running with scissors right now. 2 up sticks and run, buying back a Hunter's Clave into Savor Bloodshed, and now thinking about how to utilize the rest of this hand. Which dagger to swing, Ka? I would have to think that it's going to be Graphene Calicera into Flick the Hunter's Clave, but the problem with that is Graphene Calicera gains go again only if the opponent is marked when it attacks. So Ka is kind of relegating himself to a 1 action point turn here. Am I mistaken about that?
Wouldn't this have inherently go again because it has stealth from Slippy's ability?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so
I'm glad my co-caster is keeping an eye on me. This has go again thanks to the Slippy ability. This is a whopping 12-13 right here.
Wow. Okay, so
going to become 14 after this Flick Knives.
Yeah, so Paul seemingly not leaving himself a lot of room to block this out, or he is theoretically dead to a pump. But we know that he's got 2 defense reactions in hand, so not quite leaving himself as vulnerable as it may initially seem.
7 block still at Paul's disposal, but Ka is still well above that. Interesting. Paul also, yes, waiting for the flick. It's a discard of the Shelter from the Storm, so at least Paul is insulated from that card draw off of the Savor Bloodshed.
Oh, and another D-React in Arsenal. So really, Paul was very prepared to face an onslaught of damage here. And that is, I guess, the upside of having a hand that was just completely devoid of blues otherwise.
Man, when it comes to defense reactions, Paul is the guy that's always got it. Looks like Ka is cleaning up, yes, because the last card in hand is a Codex of Frailty, which closes the chain. Paul is going to have to discard to this, and he's got himself a Command and Conquer in hand and another D-React. So Ka is definitely going to be able to effectively threaten that arsenal. It's probably going to be a Leave No Witnesses, yes, chosen from the graveyard, which means that Paul is... Oh, he chose Felling of the Crown, which means that it's going to go to the Banish Zone and thereby not be available to his Plume of Evergrowth.
No, I think it'll be blocked out by the remaining Shelter Prevention. So I think Paul just making the heads-up play of getting back his power card for free, that is one of the only downsides of playing Codex of Frailty.
Yeah, and definitely a card. Felling of the Crown is not a card you want to give your opponent access to. Codex of Frailty, being the incredible power card that it is, does have its drawbacks. You have to remember it and be cognizant. Anybody like myself who has been playing Azalea and resolved the Codex of Frailty to give a Bravo back a Crippling Crush knows what I'm talking about.
And Ka here has all of the tempo with Paul only at 6. So it might seem like Ka's very favorite here, and I do think Ka's in a strong position. But Ka does not need to get that much lower before Stormstriders on his own turn becomes a real concern. So we'll see if Ka can put out enough offensive output here to close out the game before that becomes an eventuality.
Kiss of Death is not a bad way to start it. He's found himself that third copy of Codex of Frailty as well. He is a little bit devoid of attack reactions in the hand, so I don't think he's going to be able to convert every single one of these cards, unfortunately, especially because his Hunter's Clave went into the graveyard last turn. And yes, it is Command and Conquer, the follow-up here after the Kiss of Death. Not what Ka wanted to see right here.
And unfortunately for Paul, his Cadaverous Tilling, which may have otherwise been a card he wanted to block with, only blocks for 2. So it won't stop this Command and Conquer. So I sort of think Paul is, unless I'm missing something, or unless he utilizes his Plume for some reason that I'm not seeing, priced into either blocking with all 3 cards or blocking with his 2/3 blocks and, I guess, IPing for next turn.
Kind of an unfortunate draw for both of these players. Neither of them are seeing like the full gas or full breaks, I guess, in the case of Paul, with more defense reactions, or defensive cards, rather.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess Ka overpitching is effectively an IP penalty as well. So, yeah, to your point, Bryce, definitely the case. I do think if that is going to be what happens, that favors Ka, given that he's the one
without a doubt
with fully in the driver's seat tempo-wise.
Which means that Ka has yet another turn where he doesn't have to face down a Felling of the Crown and thereby a difficult decision to descend into combo range for the Verdance. So Paul just has to lick his wounds, draw back up. And it looks like, ooh, another kind of brick of a hand here. It's 1 blue, 2 reds, and a Burn Bear, which does not block here. And Ka still healthily outside of that combo range.
Bryce, not only does Burn Bear not block, it also doesn't pitch. So Paul's in a situation where he might be forced to keep a Burn Bear in his hand and then ultimately IP himself once again. Oh, Burn Bear does block. Okay. Yes. Okay. There's a reason people are playing this card.
Okay. Double Trouble, Razor's Edge, and Flick Knives turn on that card. So up to 6 is Double Trouble. 3 damage gonna leak through there for Paul. Paul
gaining a life, perhaps?
Gaining a life in response just to stay alive.
Yeah, but he's dead to Flick on the next turn unless he does something, and I think...
And extending the fist bump is Paul Gibby. The Codex of Frailty is just too much to overcome at this point. Verdance, Thorn of the Rose, falls to our slippery friend, Ka-chan.
Excellent game. Ka, really, I think, a very stylish mode of player. I'm looking forward to... At 3-0 now, we'll be... or is it not 4-0?
It should be 4-0
now. 4-0 now, locked for top 8. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of Ka's play going into those final rounds.
Ka, without a doubt, one of the most explosive players that we have seen on the New England scene since we have moved there just this year.
Yeah, I'm certainly impressed. And no, Paul was no slouch there. We had like a lot of really exciting moments, especially starting with that turn 0, and it never really let up. It seemed like Ka would have a very nice sequence that seemed destined to do a ton of damage, and Paul had the D-React ready to go. Some unfortunate draws there at the end for Paul, such that he stumbled up, but ultimately, really good game. Wonder if we might see a rematch between these two in the future.
It's quintessential Flesh and Blood that a lot of people are really drawn to, especially when you learn the game at your outset. Like I'm looking at Warrior players. They love the way Warrior plays because they play on all access, all priority windows in this beautiful game. And so really exciting Flesh and Blood to watch, without a doubt.
Yeah, and we're seeing the what some have called the Slippy and Mario the good warriors on display in Assassin. So definitely looking forward to see those, especially in that we have these sort of unexpected results and that no gravies appear to be at the top tables.
We're going to have an interview with Ka Chan, the slippery man himself. But first, let's go ahead and examine the stakes for these players that are at Grave Troll Games today. It is a 1K tournament, as are all of the Arcane games and events, opens throughout the year, which all lead up to the Players Championship, which is going to have a bigger prize pool in terms of cash, also a gold cold foil and a PTI on the line. For now, this is what they're looking at here. The winner is going to take home $400 and 30 AGE points. Second place, $200 and 25 AGE points. Third through fourth, $100 and 20 AGE points. Fifth through eighth, $50 and 15 AGE points. I mentioned the Players' Championship already. Patrick, why are those AGE points so important?
Bryce, if I've said it once, I've said it 100 times. These points are worth more than the money to me. They're worth the way your way into the Players' Championship, at which point you have, well, in addition to bragging rights, but the ability to compete for those ultimate prizes.
And only the top 16 players after 8 opens throughout the year make that top cut for the Players' Championship. All of these players, if they make it into that top 16 leaderboard, are going to get an all expenses paid trip to the Players' Championship, where they will compete for $2,000 USD, a gold cold foil, and a PTI, as I mentioned before. Patrick, Ka Chan has moved one step closer to making his way into that top 16 race for the Players' Championship. So I would really like to hear how he feels about that. What do you say we do an interview with him in just a moment?
He's made his way closer to the Players' Championship and into my heart. I'm looking forward to this interview.
Dear Diary, today I became jealous of a guy that I haven't even seen in the physical realm before, because Patrick is swooning over Ka Chan. I will have a bone to pick with him when I take him for an interview in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. We'll have an interview with Ka Chan in just a moment. Flak is not the only thing that you can flick in the game of Flesh and Blood, and Ka Chan is the man with the plan when it comes to that. Ka, you flicked, I want to say 6 daggers in that game?
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of daggers thrown that game. I lost count after 2, I think. I think we lost. I don't hear Bryce anymore.
Having a bit of a technical difficulty. We'll get Ka back in just a moment right here. What's up, Ka?
Hello,
you hear me now, brother?
Yeah, we did it. We got there.
All right, excellent. Technical difficulties be damned. Walk me through how exactly you feel about the Verdance matchup in general.
The Verdance matchup is honestly kind of scary, because like since you start at like 2 lower life, that threshold of Storm Striders with the Waning Moon killing you is much more important. And like you kind of need to keep a lot of cards in hand in order to actually get over reactions and like threaten something useful against her, because she is usually fine like blocking like 9 to 12 every turn and just waiting until she draws a felling, send the felling, get you low enough where she can just like Storm Striders, Burn Bear, Waning Moon. So it's tricky.
Which means that
especially
you must have felt really good overcoming that 2 life gap when you got to go first and you draw up a hand of 2 Justinix and a blue Infect.
Yeah, that one was pretty good. I was debating not doing that, and then I was like, well, what's the worst that could happen? He blocks 3 and then has 2D has the reactions. Like, sure, but
and it was
still
pretty
got
much
through
the
there.
worst case scenario for you there, because Paul was holding a Shelter from the Storm and a mental block, which even though it didn't completely shore up all of that damage, it was enough to just make it so that you came out even rather than ahead.
Yeah, unfortunately, because I was just hoping to like get the early life lead by just coming in for 11 out of nowhere, but we take the 2 life leads too, I suppose.
is what it is. And you showed a master class in keeping pace with Verdance, especially when she has access to such efficient cards like Felling of the Crown. It very much felt like arcane damage was going to win the day, especially early on when you just took like you wanted to send the 11, but then all of a sudden here comes Verdance with 10 damage and you are at a massive deficit. How are you feeling at that point? Is that exactly what you expect from the Verdance matchup?
Yeah, it's about what I expect. Like, I'm not trying to actively pitch into AB where I only have so many blues. Like, I kind of need them sometimes for hands to make like dagger attacks and CNCs work out. So at that point in the game, it was feeling pretty sketchy for me, honestly, because like I just have to take the burn bear. I can't really afford to just like pitch into it or anything. I kind of just have to keep my hand, hope that he blocks wrong, and then eke out an advantage from there.
Ka, you have done incredibly well at AGE Opens thus far. I believe this is your third event. We won't talk about the last one, but a couple months ago,
Thank
you did ascend to the finals, ultimately succumbed to Aurora Shooting Star in the hands of Pheno Black. How are you feeling today, though? 4-0, brother. You are locked for top 8, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know if I'm locked for top 8. I mean, regardless, I'm gonna play it out and see what happens. But I'm feeling pretty good about things. I think that the room is about what I expected. I was hoping with new leaving that there wouldn't be many or any other assassins in the field. So I was like, maybe it can like I think that Slipped has better matchups into things like Gravy and Syndra than Marionette does. So I just went with Old Faithful, and it's been doing me well so far, I guess you could say.
Without a doubt. And it's important to mention that previous Open where you ascended to the finals, you were also piloting Arakni slip through the cracks. So clearly you're not scared of the other big boogeyman in the meta, Gravy Bones. Why don't you break that down for me?
So I think that Slipped has a reasonable Gravy Bones matchup where you just have innate go again and a lot of disruption with like every single attack. What I found during testing essentially with my team is that Gravy kind of is really bad at blocking. Like if he blocks with multiple, if he's usually just like an ally or two, and then a bunch of blues that he needs to keep in order to do anything. So if you can just like force him to block with his blues, and then his allies don't block at all, you can usually just get free damage through that way. So like Chainlink 1 bonds is actually a huge problem for him because there's no winning in a situation like that.
And Gravy Bones is so limited in terms of the number of defense reactions that he can run, and he can't stuff entire turns like Paul was time and time again, as we saw on display in the last round.
Yeah, that was another big thing because I was honestly tempted to put Toxicity back in the deck just because no Gravies are playing Shelter, and like that would be kind of backbreaking, just like 6 damage out of nowhere. But I ultimately decided against it because it's just it's a little too hopeful, and I found that I don't really need the like the cheekiness of Toxicity Kiss of Death to just run Gravy over.
But you're no stranger to cheekiness, Ka. I know our producer, Justin, has been incredibly influenced by the way that you build this Slippy deck. If memory serves, he brought your deck to an armory recently that had 3 spreading plagues in it. So you are not reluctant to do cheeky things in this assassin deck, and you're also not reluctant to change. One of the new things that I noticed in this particular matchup was that Schism of Chaos. Talk to me about that card.
Yeah. So far it's not been performing too great today. Essentially, the idea is that you just like pitch into a dagger, and if you have no arsenal, your opponent has an arsenal. It's almost like drawing a card. Like almost every card in the deck is like playable off of like a single stealth or a single dagger attack. So the idea was essentially like I pitch a blue, I make 3 resources, and I draw a card. Like that's pretty good. Unfortunately, all 3 times that I've seen it today, I've also given my opponent an arsenal. So. But it's a lot less good when your opponent gets to draw a card as well. But sometimes they just like it puts a blue Fruits of the Forest in their arsenal, and they're just like, wow, very cool.
I was about to say that was not the optimal card for your opponent to hit off the top. And in certain cases, I mean, hey, let's imagine a world where that mental block was a little bit further down in the deck. You could have bricked the arsenal for the entirety of the game, or at least until you disrupt it.
Yeah, I mean that was another thing that I was thinking about when I put it in because like against Gravy, I don't necessarily mind giving them a card because like half the time it's an ally and they don't want that there. So
really interesting Slippy plays out of you, Ka. I can't wait to see the final deck list when we get to post it because I know you're making top 8 today, my friend.
It's pretty likely, I think. I don't know. I've never been good at the top 8 napkin math, where like every single time people are like crowded around, like, all right, so we have 4 4 O's, we have this many 3 1s, and I'm just like, I can't do that. I need to play the game.
Ka, before I let you go and let you enjoy your break before round 5, I do want you to give a moment to shout out your team and anything else. If people want to see more of Ka-chan, where can they find you?
Oh yeah. As for team, I've recently linked up with the banana testers. Uh, Ricardo, Elise, like Chell, they've all been really good for like testing and stuff. I've never actually participated in like a team testing environment before, so it's been really cool to work with other people and like to, because like whenever it came to learning matchups, it was more or less just I learned the matchup by just sitting across from it and just playing it. So like when with like new things like the new like the hotness of gravy, where like not everybody at Armory is playing gravy, it was really helpful to have uh, one of our teammates, Ben, like break down the deck and like actively like talk about like, here's what I play, here's why, and here's how you can attack it. And that's kind of like how I ended up on the list that I am today.
Fantastic,
As
Ka.
for
I mean, as a lone wolf, you were already scary enough, but now that you're hunting in a pack, the sky's the limit.
I suppose so. I don't think I can get any higher than. You know what? Never mind. I don't know where I was going with that one.
Sorry, I interrupted you. Where else
No,
can people find you if they'd like to?
I'm on. I think just at this point, just Blue Sky at Ikachi, EKATCHI. I don't really post much there. Maybe I should.
Well, maybe now that you are making waves in the AG New England circuit, we'll build an audience for you.
Oh my goodness, I'm honored.
And we are honored to have you as well, Ka. I will go ahead and let you enjoy your break and get ready for round 5 for more flicking and more equipping of daggers and more of an onslaught of disruption, I am sure.
All right.
We will be
Sounds
back
good.
with more Flesh and Blood, more rounds of Swiss, and more Ka-chan after this. Don't go anywhere. Flesh and Blood will be right back.